So, my name's Thomas Schmote, and welcome to another aspect of this app. And I don't think that this video here is going to be separated into all the different categories like grief and loss, suicide ideation, and maybe you're not suicidal, or maybe you personally aren't going through grief and loss, but maybe someone that you know is. And so I've said this before, but I used to be a clinical psychiatric chaplain. Chaplains actually have to go through pretty extensive study, just like a therapist or a licensed clinical social worker. We, as chaplains who get board certified, most of us have dealt with a specific type of therapy called Bowenian theory or family system theory. And it's really just to understand the family system that you grew up in and how you relate to others. And how this played out in the hospital setting is that there's an interdisciplinary team, right? There's nurses and there's technicians and there's custodians or um, phlebotomists. There's um, uh, pharmacists, there's doctors, there's all the specialties. There's x-ray techs, not just in imaging, but there's people who bring imaging to the ICU or to different parts of the hospital and serve people. But all these people grew up in, you know, functioning or dysfunctional homes, and they've learned how to get along with other people in some regards, and everyone brings their family or their history to work with them. And my job as a chaplain, one of the primary responsibilities was really having a pulse on anxiety that exists with the team. And because I work really hard about sitting with my own anxiety when you know maybe I'm reacting to how someone talked to me. And if I'm mindful of that, I'm like, okay, where did that come from? Like, what's going on? What's behind these layers that whatever anxiety or pain or stress, it's rising to the surface, right? And if you're here, most likely you too are trying to figure out, okay, maybe you've done therapy, or maybe you're really working on mindfulness and exercises, but it's not only a daily um, interaction with ourselves and others, it is a minute by minute, second by second, that we honor ourselves. And so I know it's just the way that my mind works. It's like I wish that it was so concise and it was a nice one bullet point ABC, two bullet point ABC, but my mind doesn't work like that. And either your visit to this app and listening, I'm not sure if this is a vlog, is this a podcast, or is this video? I don't know what to call it, and maybe you can help me to figure that out. But either this is going to be great for you, or it's going to be not good, and if I'm not for you, I hope that you find someone who helps you process you, and not only learn how to process you, but how can you care for those around you without saying stupid things? Because all of us give out bad advice, but when we're actually listening to people, right? When, let's say, I'm having the bad day, I'm not going to seek out someone who makes me feel like crap, right? Who always says the wrong thing, right? Because if I seek that person out, what am I going to do? I'm going to feel worse. But it's interesting, we will give bad advice to people, But if we're hurting, we're not going to go and seek advice, right? So what we really need to do is like not only become better caretakers of ourselves, because if we actually begin to get into not just advice but application, right? Wisdom is the application of knowledge. We can know a lot of stuff and not be able to do anything with that stuff. Being able to not only process what it is that we're feeling, doing, what's going on and around us, and around other people that are interacting in our dimension, or we're cogs. Think about the workings of a clock, and there's all these gears and there's these hands that touch one another. But if one of those hands is jacked up, it's not, the clock isn't functioning, right? And nothing's working. And if we're not caring for ourselves and we don't have the ability to care for someone else, we're that broken cog that our gears are not matching up with other people's gears. Or maybe the other person is jacked up, right? And we don't even want their gears to touch our gears. But if you're on this earth, if you woke up this morning, you're meant to be here, and we all have this sense of belonging. Like, you don't have to earn the right to be a human being. Most animals in the animal kingdom, like, they have no doubt believing that that animal is who they are. They don't ever go, you're not my kind. Sure, some animals eat other animals, right? But they don't go, you're not an animal, I'm not going to have any interactions with you. Like, no, dogs, when I walk my children's dog, like, that dog has to interact with other people's dogs, and like, he sniffs every nook and cranny and leaves a trace of himself. And it's like, come on, Dakota, you don't have to stop at every single urinary stop. And I'm going to put my little, even if it's just a drop, he lifts his leg to just put a little drop on top of someone else's to say, ha ha, I've conquered this, And I hope that we evolve past leaving our scent or our mark, or like, hey, and it could be like, leaving our poop somewhere. I'm going to mess this up so that, like, haha, I've conquered this space. And I think that that's a really good introduction to talking about values, right? I wanted, if we begin to value ourselves and value others, it's going to go better for us. So if I was to summarize values, this is how I would say it. Values are those things that are intrinsically important to us. They may not be important to someone else, but they're high on our needs, right? Like, there's 5 love languages. It's quality time, it's acts of service, it's touch, it's gift giving, and words of affirmation, roughly. There's probably even variations of that. High on mine is like, quality time for me doesn't mean like I need to, like, that we have to do something special. It's the point that we're just together. And we don't even have to be fully interacting, but the fact that we can sit at the kitchen table, like, whether I'm with Keziah or someone else, my daughter Keziah, like, she's sketching, I could be cooking, but the fact that we're in the same room and we're sort of interacting with one another, that's enough for me. My other love language is physical touch, and physical touch doesn't always have to be romantic or erotic. It's just a point that someone would even touch my hand or put their hand on my shoulder. Like, when I see my friends and family, like, the fact that I would give a bear hug. I'm known for my hugs, like, so that's high on my list. And not that I don't like gifts, like, especially if it has like sentimental value, like I don't know if you have ever experienced this. I had my Nana, my grandmother. She would always leave price tags on the things that she bought me so that she would that I would know how much she paid it for. Like that was high on her list. But what I came to realize is that my own grandmother never really knew me. She would buy me things that she thought that I would like, but she never sought to understand, or like I never received a gift from her that I was like, wow, she knew me, you know? And maybe you've experienced this too. Like if we don't have people in our lives that are valuing us, and valuing us means that they have learned to recognize what we care about. And when we experience that, like there's people in my life that are, I'm completely right-brained. Okay, I'm an artist, even though that I, have gone to, did an undergrad in theology and philosophy, did a master's of divinity. I, even within the spiritual realm, there are people that are just completely like A-type personality. That's not me. I'm so easygoing, and I don't need things to be perfect. What I do need is I need some level of consistency. I can't have someone criticize me about a behavior or a type of my personality when they are just as jacked up in another area, because I see that as being inconsistent, or I feel devalued, right? So here's some of the things in value, right? Common personal values: accomplishment, success, accountability, accuracy, adventure, all for one and one for all, beauty, calm, quietness, peace, challenges, challenging, change, charity. Charity is like being gracious and actually doing acts of faith towards others. Cleanliness and orderliness, collaboration, commitment, communication, community, competence. Like I'm not going to name every single one. Connection, content over form, customer satisfaction, creativity, decisiveness, determination, discipline, discovery, diversity, dynamic, efficiency, excellence, equality, equity, fairness, faith, faithfulness, family, freedom, friendship, friend, fun, generosity, gentleness, a global view, gratitude, hard work, happiness, health, honor, human-centered, improvement, independence, individuality, inner peace. And I'll have this posted on the app so that you can actually like download this document or whatever. Innovation, integrity, intelligence, justice, kindness, leadership, love, romance, meaning, merit, money, openness, open to other people's point of view, input, patriotism, peace, nonviolence, perfection, protection, power, perseverance, preservation, privacy, progress, prosperity, and wealth. Punctuality, being on time. That's what that means. Some people really value being punctual. Quality of work, regularity, reliability, resourcefulness, respect for others, responsiveness, results oriented, sorry about that, satisfactory, security, self-giving, self-reliance, sensitivity, service to others, simplicity, having skills, solving problems, speed, spirit or spirituality in one's life, stability, standardization, strength, success, systemization, making things systematic, teamwork, timeliness, tolerance, trust, truth, unity, variety, well-being, wisdom. So out of those things, like, some people really value security and safety, right? Some people really value providing safety and security for other people. Some people don't care about punctuality because they're like fly by the seat of their pants. But they're not bothered when you're late. Where people who are highly time-oriented, especially in America, is a time-oriented country. But there's countries where if someone shows up at your house and you're supposed to have dinner at 6, but they show up at like 10 o'clock at night, there's some cultures that if you show up, you're not late. And if you want someone to be there at 6, sometimes you need to tell them be there by 3:30 or 4 o'clock. Because if not, they're going to be late. It's just part of who they are. No one shows up exactly when the event occurs. So I hope that this is useful in you trying to figure out, okay, what are your own values, right? Now we're going to talk about beliefs. And beliefs are basically, if I summarized it down to its core, how do you interpret this life and existence, and how do you value, or how do you connect with how others are going to interact with you and how you're going to interact with them. And that is the belief system. And even when someone says that they don't have a belief system, or they don't have spirituality or faith, right? Well, when I worked a normal job, magically every 2 weeks on Friday, somewhere between 5 in the morning to 7 a.m. Eastern or Central, money appears into my bank account, right? It didn't magically appear there. It takes trust. This is what faith is. Faith is believing that someone's actually going to make that allocation, that they type the right keystroke or whatnot for me to receive that money. And just the, I used to live in Italy. I speak Italian. There was this bank that I had when I was in the military in Italy called Banca Credito. And the bank you can trust, right? The credito, or credit, right? Even a credit card, we spend money and the credit card company is expecting us to pay that money back. And so it takes trust, belief, right? That someone's going to do what they said that they're going to do, that we're going to do what we said we're going to do. And not all of us on this planet have the same values or beliefs. But what's really frustrating is that when we don't have the ability to talk to others and to negotiate how we want others to interact with us, and basically also honor how other people desire that we would interact with them. Recently, I go down to this pub down the street, and Jacob called me Tom. But I've introduced myself to people as Thomas. And I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I don't like the name Tom personally. I prefer Thomas. And now Jacob can call me whatever he wants, but I'm probably not going to tip him very well unless he calls me what I want, right? I'm going to put it out there. And I even said, hey, I'm not Tom. I'm Thomas. I don't call him Jake or Jackie. I don't make up a name for him. Or maybe I just call him, instead of Jacob, just call him Cobb. Hey, Cobb, you know. I can just make up a name for him. No, I'm honoring how, hey, what's your name? He told me his name was Jacob. I'm going to refer to him Jacob unless he says, hey, could you call me this name, right? Call me by this other name. So here's some reflection questions about your core values. How are you practicing and promoting living the values that you came to believe, right? Like if you value peace, how are you promoting peace with other people and with yourself? What is challenging about practicing or promoting and living these values, right? And instead of that huge list that I read to you, this is going to be a shorter list. Peace, wealth, happiness, success, friendship, fame, authenticity, power, influence, justice, integrity, joy, love, recognition, family, truth, wisdom, and status, right? So what's challenging about practicing if you highly value love? If someone's not loving you and you're in this relationship where someone's hurting you, if you don't value you and stand up for your rights, no one else is going to respect you either. If you value like yourself, like the other, I said it in my painting class, like the other night, because I wasn't feeling well. She was at her mom's house, and but I didn't tell Keziah that I had planned a dinner for her, right? And I didn't want her to feel bad about it. And Keziah sends me a text apologizing that she's not feeling well. Well, I'm like, Keziah, you don't need to apologize for not feeling well. And I'm just using this as an example. And Keziah's right here, but I love finding like, here's a practical event that occurred, and this is what I'm doing to understand myself and understand others, and also promote self-well-being as much as well-being for another person. And I continued to have a candlelit dinner even though that no one came over. Like I could have gone and sat down in a chair and put a movie on and ate not at the table, right? But I've had jazz playing. I make this meal, and I even took a picture of it, not to be like Instagram and Facebook, but I'm just like, hey, I've been working really hard. This is a way that I can honor myself, right? And if you begin to honor yourself on a daily basis of practicing the values that you want others to know about you, but also how you want others to interact with you, you're going to promote mindfulness and well-being. And when you're practicing these things, when challenges come, it may still be a challenge, like having, depression hit us, sadness. Maybe it's an anniversary of an event that someone died or something tragic happened to us. And we may not even be aware that the calendar, wow, this happened. But there's so many books out. The Body Keeps Count, I think is a book. Like our body and our mind and our being somehow record and have a calendar. And if we're mindful about these things, if I'm caring for myself, and then all of a sudden, boom, one day I'm hit with, periodically I'm suicidal. I don't know why I'm suicidal. And it's not that I want to die. It's just that sometimes, like, I'm not sure how to live, right? I'm not sure what it is that's missing or needs to be fixed. And I may not be capable of fixing it. There's this prayer, the Serenity Prayer, and it goes like this. It goes, God grant me the ability to accept the things that I cannot change, to accept the things that I can, and then the wisdom to know the difference. There are some things that are out of my control. Like, let's say I plan this awesome camping trip or something, and then a storm rolls in, and the whole time it's completely miserable, wet. You can't even be outside apart from being underneath a tarp or something, and maybe you just call it quits and go home, because there are things that just were out of our control. And either we can hate that, and we can still hate it and accept it, right? Acceptance doesn't have to mean that I like what is happening. But acceptance is like, okay, like, there are some things that I have no control over. And why would I even attempt to micromanage something that is unmanageable? And it creates self-hatred, and it creates hatred for other people. Let's say someone loves the rain, right? And they're like dancing out in the rain, and they're enjoying the storm. But because you had a preconceived idea that today it was going to be sunny and it was going to be beautiful, you see someone out there enjoying the rain, and because you're hating the rain, then you're pissed off at this other human being for enjoying the very thing that's causing you displeasure. And I don't know what's causing you displeasure, but I would venture to say that if you're watching this video, you're trying to figure out life. And we're all in this sinking boat together. The bilge pump is the thing that takes the water from in the boat and puts it out of the boat. And most people don't realize, like, we have purposely drilled holes in this boat that we're living on, okay? And the only way is grab a bucket or a cork and start plugging some of these holes. And some of the holes I caused, and some of the holes are from other people. But Gandhi said, be the change that you desire to see in the world. And I just wanted to read this from Gandhi. Our beliefs become our thoughts become our words become our habits become our values, and our values become our destiny. What is it that you have thought about that went from just being a thought and then became maybe even a negative word, or maybe it's a positive word, and then that word became something that became habitual, that when this event happens, either you automatically snap to a happy place and everything's good, or you snap to a place of negativity and pain and shame and grief. And that ultimately, Gandhi said, is going to be the things that become the things that we value. There's some people that they like the idea of peace, but they really are a tornado, right? Like, they walk into a room and they agitate and create chaos, and yet they say that they value peace. Maybe you're one of these people. Maybe you know someone. Periodically, it was me. But I am on this journey to actually be proactive about peace in my own heart and my being. And that the things that I say that I value line up and are congruent with what I say that I believe. Where are we at time? Oh, wow. So, yeah, I hope that this was a good visit for you to, as an introduction. We are going to have um, specific groups on grief and loss and processing that. And there's a whole packet of like to take you through the process of giving yourself permission to feel your feelings. If you're feeling, um, have have thoughts of suicide or suicidal ideation, which means like, you're not sure how to live. There's a good friend of mine, um, and Max. Max will probably be writing a review. I used to counsel him, and when I was the clinical psychiatric chaplain, he was my patient, and his mom asked me, "Hey, like he really connected with you? Can you continue this relationship with Max?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." Um, but one of the things that Max said that really just struck my core, okay, and he's doing really well. I mean, he just finished his freshman year at Indiana University, and I'm so like he is so gifted and talented, doing photography and studying business there at IU. So he has the artistic side and the financial side, which is great. But when he was a junior in high school, he was suicidal, and he was struggling. And one of the things that Max said to me is the prospect of the future is scarier than death. That the unknown, uncertainty to him he was absolutely afraid of. If he knew things were going to work out, then maybe he could have some level of security, right? And I'm not going to go into what caused Max to have those insecurities. But the challenge here is like, okay, what is the insecurity in my life, in your life, that is causing our reaction to things? Like if we're, I'm surprised that no one had, like when I meet someone who says, "Oh no, I've never been suicidal," I'm like, really? Like you gotta be lying. Because it's like, even if you haven't acted upon it, did you ever say to yourself, wow, like I woke up today, like if I could have woke up in heaven or in a place of peace, like, right? Like maybe we're having an awesome dream and then you wake up and you find out, oh my gosh, I'm back here in hell. And maybe you don't feel that extreme, but I'm willing to be vulnerable enough to say, like, periodically I'm there, and I wouldn't have formulated it in the words like Max did, but it's similar. It's not too far. It's not so abstract from mine. Mine is like, man, I just sometimes don't know how to live. The future doesn't scare me. Sometimes it's the present. The future, like, I know it's going to work out. Like it, in my humble opinion, and I've only been on this earth for 50 years, like, has stuff always worked out? Yeah, it's not like I've been in some pretty tragic accidents, and it's like, yeah, it might take 6 months to heal, but like I've healed from just about anything that I've endured, right? But when I'm neck deep in it, for me, it's like, oh, am I capable of getting through this, right? And I'm going slightly over 30 minutes, but I wanted to end with, like, often we just don't give ourselves the same amount of mercy and grace, love, kindness, thoughtfulness that we actually extend to other people. But the truth of the matter is that we cannot fully extend to others what we're not giving to ourselves. So I could be flattering, right? I could say all the right things and be there for you, but the truth of the matter is, when I actually can do this for myself, when I give care to another person, I may not even do that much, right? But my presence alone changes that dynamic, because I myself have not only gone through it, but I processed it, right? And when we actually have processed it, we don't have to fix another human being. We may give advice. We may not give advice. We might just simply give them what they need, which might be silence and just us being there with them. So I hope that you find time this week to process, to sit with your feelings and your emotions, and be kind to yourself. Thank you.